Now, anyway, I woke up yesterday morning on my way to the market, and images were flying around. I didn't really know what the story was, so I'm like, okay, I'll just check online later, and all of that. Then on my way back, the guy that brought me back was now telling me the story. Ma, have you seen this? Have you carried this story? I said, what story? He now said he's also an Ogoni guy. He started telling me the story about the guy, how he was a very, very fantastic police officer who helped to bring about peace in Ogoni land and all of those details. And of course, he now told me, he now showed me the actual picture of his private parts, his decapitated form, basically. That this guy didn't just murder this man, basically murdered him and left him in pieces, in piecemeals. Now, my concern is the dehumanization of this human being. All he did was to be a police officer. All he did was to fight criminal gangs. Ahoda, I'm not saying Ahoda West or East, I'm using the word Ahoda, has become something that we can no longer understand what is going on. Now the governor and his party is declaring them wanted, dethroning the traditional ruler, and placing 100 million bounty. How much of this effort do you think is going to quell the situation in Ahoda? Because this is also a modus that Governor Wike had used in the past.
I think the governor has done what any governor would have done under this circumstance. The governor embodies the state and is the carrier of the cohesive powers of the state. And no responsible government, no responsible state want to cede that power or share that power with any other entity.
Okay.
And so the government will need to assert itself in this situation. And it is in keeping with that spirit of assertion that the governor has taken the steps he has taken so far. All of these steps point was the fact that the governor is in charge, is in control, and this thing has happened. The next thing will be some kind of reaction from the government. So far, I think the reaction has been in line with what anyone would have expected. Whichever way you look at it, I think the killing of a police officer of that rank is a big loss to the police as an institution. One can understand the enormous resources that have been committed into the training of this police officer up to this position, the courses he would have attended, the experience would have acquired, and with so much promise, given the kind of testimonies we've heard about his commitment to the force, his commitment to the fight against crime and criminality. I think it's a big loss to the police force, it's a big loss to the nation, it's a big loss to the state. Like I said, the governor's actions are just in line with what anyone would have expected. People who carry out these kinds of actions don't drop from the air. They live within communities and they are supposedly known. So one would expect that since there's a traditional ruler in that area, somehow he should be in charge. If there is any possibility of a breakdown in law and order, he should take control. If it's something that is beyond his control, he should involve higher authority, i.e. the state. So to that extent, the fact that this happened, quote and unquote, right under the nose of a traditional ruler, then the government also took the right step by, deposing the traditional ruler. It's not a final deposition if I get the spirit of the year. It's a suspension. And so I imagine investigations would follow, and then depending on the outcome of those investigations, he may be exonerated, exculpated, or possibly, there will be a finality to it. And the idea of putting a bounty on the head of the suspect is to also motivate people who have useful information that could lead to the arrest of the suspects to come out with such information. So all told, I think, as unfortunate as this is, one has to say that the response of the government so far has been commendable.
All right. Now, arguably, you cannot come into a community to commit crime without somebody in that community being in the know, at least having an idea that this person is not a member of our community. As at the time of filing the initial report, the local government chairman was nowhere in sight. We were said that he wasn't taking his calls. Now, the CP Warrior and his team were basically, went down there himself as at that yesterday morning, in search of these criminals. Now, yes, all of this, but what I find difficult to swallow is how we, who call ourselves humans, that is, if we still have souls resident in our body, how do you know that these people are criminals, and you pretend like this is okay? Are you saying that people don't live in that community, that they don't know these people? How are we comfortable with knowing that certain individuals are criminal elements and we're not perturbed about it? This is not the first time that Ahoda has been in the news. And now, the community itself, that's why I ask, is it enough? It is because a police officer shouldn't be decapitated the way this man was, and you're just deposing the monarch. I think a lot of people should take responsibility. But again, that's me, because I'm emotional, I'm all over the place, because this is somebody's father. This is a man who has not done nothing but to see that he protects or provides or to do his job the way he should. What should be the punishment or the responsibility attached to those who are in that community who also fail to do something? Because the monarch has people with him. People live in that community. So when you say he ceded a part of his community, it means that there are other people in that community also who know. So should it just be the monarch who should be held responsible for all of this? I mean, again, how much power does he have to actually fight these guys?
Well, monarchs exercise considerable power in their domains. There are some who are even more loyal, as it were, to their monarchs than to elected constituted authority. So they exercise considerable influence. That is not debatable. I think it's early days yet. Investigations will be carried out, I imagine, both by the state government and by the police, because the police is involved in this. It's a personnel of theirs who've been murdered. And so I imagine investigations will be carried out from different perspectives by different authorities, the state government, the Nigerian police. And at the end of the day, whatever findings those investigations produce will inform the substantive action of those two authorities. However, with regard to the question of residents of the community, sometimes you also have to sympathize with such people, because this is not peculiar to Ahoda. It happens in several localities in the state. What normally happens is that these gangs are very, very armed, very well armed. They carry sophisticated weapons quite often. And so they succeed in cowing even the local populace. In some cases, they even impose all kinds of levies on people who want to, people who have social events like marriages, weddings, funerals, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, anybody volunteering information to the police against them runs the risk of, being a target. So,
and you mean, so I don't want to call names. We know notable people who are from Ahoda East, for instance. Out of respect, and of course, I'm not a police officer. I didn't do any investigation as per who is involved and all of that. But let's not call names. So, but you mean that the notable men and women who are from these communities, none of their loved ones can say, this is what is going on, assuming they don't live in the communities. This is what is going on. These people are all over the place, and this is what they have been doing to ensure that they use their influence to bring in the authorities into Ahoda. It would mean that would be too much of a danger for anyone who is seeing the ills going on in their society, in their community to do.
Yeah, I mean, without trying to condone that kind of attitude, but people also have to think of their own safety. So, I mean, we've seen instances where people are targeted by these elements because they suspect, not even that they have fact, they suspect that these people are trying to, rat them out. So it's a tough situation. And then, of course, our disposition towards the police as an institution. There are those who believe that, if you volunteer information to the police, you never can tell whether your own anonymity will be guaranteed, or someday somebody will leak the information to these people that, this is the person who reported you. So, I mean, that also explains why people are a bit reluctant quite often to volunteer information when that's not to say that, it's the right thing, but I'm simply saying that is my own reading of the situation.